Thank you. So I'm just going to say hi, and then we're on to who? To you. Okay. All right. Okay. You ready to get started? I suppose. Matt, are you ready to start? You good? Okay. Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Welcome to this public meeting about the Rantoul Street, Route 1A, Cabot Street project. You'll be hearing, it's very loud, you'll be hearing over the next little while from Mike Collins, our Commissioner of Public Services here for the city, as well as representatives from the Mass Department of Transportation and from Middlesex Corporation, our general contractor. Actually, MassDOT, you'll be here more for questions. You're not presenting, am I right? You are? Okay, so you are presenting some. And then you'll hear from Kevin Hartunian, the city's Chief of Staff, as a wrap-up before we get to the Q&A. We promised to have everybody out of here by 8 p.m. We'll try to stick with that. I'd like to make sure I acknowledge our other elected officials, so out of fear of missing anybody, we have our Ward 3 City Councilor, Jim Latter, our Ward 2 City Councilor, Estelle Rand, and as we all know, this project goes right through the heart of both of your wards. Also, our State Representative, Jerry Paracella, is here, and other elected officials. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. Thank you, folks, for joining us, and I'm going to turn it right over to Commissioner of Public Services, Mike Collins. Thanks.
I'm afraid to speak into the mic. It's too loud. So I have this, thanks for coming tonight, for taking time out of your schedule. I have the unique perspective that I was working for the city of Salem since the early 90s, and that's when this project actually started. And there's a little bit of cooperation we had with the city of Salem, because the Salem's original water main runs right down the middle of Rantoul Street. It was put in 1869. When Rantoul Street was really just a dirt road. And it was really the city of Salem that built the road. The road was first laid out in 1855. So it's not one of the city's older streets, if you will. All the side streets used to be dead ends down into the river from Cabot Street. And then Rantoul Street was laid out, and over the years it got developed. And so as I mentioned, the project started life way back in those days, it feels like, in the early 90s. And it was a total reconstruction of Cabot and Rantoul, the entire length of Cabot. The project was advanced through various stages of design, and it was also during a time period where Mass DOT, or Mass Highway as it was known then, had this fantasy of that we were all going to go metric any day now. So the whole job was designed with the metric system, and which would have been a lot of fun to build. And but timing-wise, it would have ended up being built at the same time as Route 62, the northern portion of 1A. It would have been complete and total chaos. So the project was put on the back burner a little bit because there was too much going on at the time. We picked it back up in the 2000s with a new engineer. The original firm had actually been bought out and gone out of business. And we picked up the design, and now Mass Highway, now Mass DOT's standards had changed, and we had to start from scratch with the design, because now after their 2-year foray into the metric system, they had abandoned that notion, and now we're back to the standard units. And so the whole project was reinvigorated a few years ago, and the city of Beverly paid for the design of the job. The way that this program works, we call it the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. The way the program works is the city pays for a design, and we get the whole job designed and permitted, and all the easements secured, which any of you who own land on Rantoul or Cabot Street, you know us because we've had to meet with every single person and get every single landowner to sign off on the project, which took a while. And then when we're all done, we hand the job over to the state. State bids the job, and then the state, with federal funds in this case, builds the job. So we spent a fair chunk of change on design. However, we get about a tenfold return with construction money. So this job, as most of you know, ended up being bid, and Middlesex, was sitting in the front row here, was a successful low bidder at just, I think, a tick under 20 million, was it not? Yeah, just a little under $20 million for the whole job, which is a lot of money for 2 miles of road. But there's a lot involved here. This is a project we've been looking forward to for quite a while, as you all have, because this is really almost a coming of age for Rantoul Street, where there's so much investment happening on the private sector. It's a perfect time for this road to get rebuilt. It's a perfect time for all new sidewalks, all new trees, all new lighting. It's going to totally change the character of the road. And the landscape architects involved in the design, as you'll see later, have tried to come up with a few different themes for the road at different places so the whole road doesn't feel like the same thing, because the road has different character. Those of you who live on it, most of you do, know that the road has a different character in different sections. We stole some of these courtesy of Scott O'Feisch up there. Sitting in the Gloria Foods. The road's changed a little bit since then, but not too much. It's kind of fun. You can pick out a lot of the same businesses that are still there, as the trolley used to run down the middle of the road. And we were able to prove before we started digging. I had a suspicion that the tracks were removed for the war effort, and we were able to find in 1943 they actually pulled out all the trolley tracks specifically for the World War II support. So there are no more trolley tracks in Rantoul, but they are in Cabot and a lot of other places. Don't have to tell you what the road looks like. You know what it looks like. And it's been tough sledding the last couple of years, because even though this project is now about 5 months old with the contractor, we've been doing a lot of prep work, whether that be water work, getting National Grid in there to replace the gas main. So there's been off and on construction for the last couple of years out there, which has not made the road necessarily better. But there's also some warts that the road's had for a long time. That whole stretch up by the Dairy Queen, where there really is no sidewalk, given the volume of kids and in between two schools, there's never really been a proper sidewalk up there. It's kind of Wild West, and so a lot of those things really stand out. No cohesive design in terms of, the street furniture, the street trees, no plan. You can tell the road just sort of evolved. There was some thought put into it, the early part of the 1900s, and that's it. The road sort of evolved from there. Just some basic statistics of it. Rantoul Street in total is just over a mile, and then the rest of the job, when you add it all up, comes to almost another mile. So it's roughly 2 miles in total length. The right-of-way is roughly 66 feet wide, which is wider than your average Bear. The average city street is 40 feet. The majority of the streets in town are 40 feet wide. That's from the edge of the city right-of-way to the edge of the city right-of-way, not the pavement. In this case here, there is nothing but pavement and sidewalk, so we try to make use of all 66 feet. Sounds like a lot, but when you try to fit in 2 lanes of traffic, 2 bike lanes, 2 parking lanes, and 2 sidewalks, we really run out of space quickly. We wish we had a lot more space. Another 10 or 15 feet would have been really nice. There's 5 existing traffic signals throughout the right-of-way. And the vast majority of the road has underground utilities. The only place right about Herrick Street from there northbound, there's both underground and overhead, but the majority is overhead. And of course, 2 rail crossings, both of which are difficult to deal with. Kittredge Crossing is at an extremely long angle. The only good thing about that is the train goes through there very quickly, so there's not much interruption. And Gloucester Crossing is just a nightmare intersection. We went through a whole bunch of, I'll show you some slides later, but we went through a whole lot of iterations of design there to try to come up with, try to take it from a difficult intersection, try to make it more of actually a feature, something that would be an asset to the project. And there's a number of historic properties, including the Balch House, one of the oldest houses in this city, and the post office along the way. Are some of the registered landmarks, the old Hose 2 on Corner School and Rantoul. That's what the project looks like from a bird's eye view, all the highlighted yellow stuff. It includes that last piece of Elliott Street, Route 62, which was not included in the earlier project. The earlier project stopped just short of Park Street, so we're going to pick that up and bring that all the way up to Cabot. Includes the entirety of Rantoul Street, and includes a piece of Cabot up to Lenox, and then all the way up to where the State Road begins, and the old project stopped. Oops, let me go back. The old project, back in early, finished in around 2001, the state came from the north down to the Memorial Middle School and stopped their reconstruction, so we'll pick up at their joint and bring it right down through. One of the things that's near and dear to our heart being Public Works is how the road actually functions, how the drainage, how the other infrastructure works, and that's the stuff that's really boring to most people because they don't see it, but it really has a great impact on everybody. So there's a ton of drainage work going on, as Middlesex can tell you, because the drainage is an absolute nightmare to install there. Everything's underground, which means that every time you try to cross the road, you're hitting 2 sets of telephone conduits, couple of gas mains, a couple of water mains, because Salem's water main is out there too, sewer, electric, cable TV. So it's pretty complicated to get through there. There are all of the traffic signals are going to be totally rebuilt. They're actually all going to be interconnected so that they'll work in concert with each other. And there'll actually be 2 places where there'll be new signals. The traffic studies that were done showed that at Railroad and Rantoul, there was an existing need, which was made even greater with the addition of the parking garage there, to add a signal at Railroad and Rantoul. And then at Cabot and Beckford was the second place that the traffic counts were high enough that it warranted a traffic signal installed there. The grade crossings, we're going to reconfigure Kittredge Crossing. I'll start with that because it's a little simpler. We're going to reconfigure the gates there a little bit to try to make it safer. The goal is always to try to keep people from trying to beat the train when the gates are down. So we really are trying to make it impossible for them to beat the train. So we worked in conjunction with the railroad, met out there many times, and we come up with a configuration to change the gates there to try to make that a little safer. Gloucester Crossing is going to be fantastically more complicated because there's all those competing roads, Sawyer, Colon, Cabot, Rantoul, all those things coming together in one gigantic intersection with the railroad crossing through there. It's some of their oldest signal technology at that particular intersection, so they're going to completely upgrade that intersection, every stitch of it, all their signal systems. It's a very complicated project for them. But hopefully it pays off for them with a more reliable system. And there was, like I said, we have a couple of slides showing Gloucester Crossing. We had 5 different designs that we boiled it down to. We had a series of public meetings. If any of you have been sticking with us through the years of this project, you remember we had a series of public meetings just dedicated to Gloucester Crossing, looking at these 5 designs, trying to pick which one was the best. There was one design I liked a little better, but it was virtually impossible for us to achieve because we would have had to buy 2 major properties and essentially buy the businesses too, and it would have been millions of dollars in acquisitions, and it was just something we couldn't do. But we ended up with a design which was in our opinion in second place, but it was equally it works equally as well with the traffic to get the traffic through there because that's a pretty good bottleneck. And it was just only a slight second place in terms of aesthetics. The whole road has been designed with what was become the commonplace phrase now, the complete streets philosophy. It's basically, honestly, it's kind of the way we do things anyway, but it's just, they call it complete streets now. It's a new buzzword. But it takes into account the fact that a road is not just a place where cars drive, it's a place where businesses thrive, it's a place where pedestrians walk, it's a place where people live. So we try to accommodate all the various uses, pedestrian, bicycle, complete accessibility for all different abilities. And we try to also make it a vibrant place for businesses to thrive and a great destination for people to live. So looking from above at Gloucester Crossing, you can see The major change that you'll notice in these is right now, Route 1A is Cabot down to Rantoul. Right now, the traffic, the predominant direction of traffic is through from Cabot to Cabot across the intersection, and that's still absolutely an easy move to make in this design. But we rounded out this corner here significantly. We bought some land from Burger King, and we rounded out this corner significantly. So now you can, we noted that the majority of the traffic is actually doing this. So we've actually sort of realigned the roadway to promote that movement there. And it's also should make this a little bit more, all of these motions are pretty coherent. We would have liked to eliminate this left-hand turn because it's very rare that people turn there in the grand scheme of things. A small percentage of the vehicles do it, and when they do it, you all know because you've been stuck behind that person trying to turn left, and it holds everything up. So we would have liked to get rid of that, but you really, it would have been too much of a bottleneck if we had done that. But we actually, through this project, we actually get some green out here, a little bit of a pocket greenery there that we're going to construct as part of this, some trees down in the intersection, try to enhance the space here, which has sort of been neglected, if you will, between the tracks and Colin Street, and it just formalizes all these things. These intersections last got any sort of an engineering look back in the 70s when the traffic signals went in on this side over here. That's the last time these things have really had any sort of a dust-off. So we're going to bring everything up to modern standards, coordinate the train actually interconnect the train and the traffic signal together so that the two work in concert with each other and aren't trying to battle each other. Hopefully get things through there a little bit more smoothly. But you can tell this takes on a totally different character. This is also one of those places where if you're a pedestrian, you walk down along here, it just sort of dies. Where do you go? And so all of that gets fixed up with a nice sidewalk on both sides, much more accessible to everyone. These just help you get a little bit closer view of some of the intimate details, some of the planting plans. I realize these are a little bit hard to read on this screen, but it's just showing some of the planting and some of the landscape details. You'll notice one of the things we're going to carry throughout the job is different details on how the concrete is finished, because there's a concrete floor, you can make it look like this, or you can tool it differently to take that same material and just finish it a different way, give it a different feel. And you'll see there's different patterns that we have at different points in the job. You'll see in some of the other slides where the pattern on the road, on the sidewalk changes, because we're trying to create essentially 3 distinct different zones in the right-of-way. If you take a cut through of the average piece of the street, this is what it's going to look like now. The traveled way will be more defined and will be a little bit narrower than it is now. It'll be narrower only in terms of paint. You know, if you happen to have to go through there with your big truck or something, you'll still be able to fit. But we're trying to provide a dedicated bike lane on both sides. You can see that continues throughout the entire job, as well as the parking. And it won't, all of these things work together to make the road feel more local and more intimate when you drive down it, which has the effect of controlling traffic a little bit better, slowing people down a little bit more, protecting the cyclists. We hope promoting the cyclists throughout the corridor. It is a very unique section of road, particularly the Rantoul Street section of it, because we have a major road here, Route 1A, with a bus route, with trains, bus route nearby, with a train station, with public parking, right down the street from a commercial and recreational marina. It's a really unique location. It's one of the few places in the state where you hear the other buzzword, transit-oriented development, actually taking place where the buildings that are being built there are leveraging all this public infrastructure. So we hope that as much as Rantoul Street is used now, it becomes much more of a destination with some of these features. That it becomes much more walkable, much more rideable. much more livable. All of the lighting you see out there now goes away. We have worked and tried to come up with a more appropriate historic light. It won't be a post top like you might see in the common. It'll be a regular mast arm light, but it's a historically there's no such thing as historically accurate because we don't have metal arc lamps. But it'll be a historically envisioning lighting system. There'll be when you start, again, when you take the modern engineering approach to it, you end up with a lot more lights than you do now. So we're almost double the number of light poles within the right-of-way compared to what there is now. There are some very streetscape elements, that everything will be coordinated together, from trash cans, bike racks, parking meter posts. We're actually, even in some of the work we're doing with the fire alarm system, we're going with a historic reproduction of some of the fire alarm pedestals, so it looks a little bit more antique, more period correct. All of the sidewalks through the entire right-of-way get replaced. We're replacing all the trees, as many of you probably noticed. All the trees went away, and they're going to come back in force with a much more appropriate trees. It's unfortunate, a number of years ago, the city planted a lot of trees, and they picked probably the two worst varieties of trees that they could have possibly picked to plant in a city. And one destroys the sidewalks, the other one has absolutely no structural integrity. So every time we get even the most minor windstorm, the trees split in half, fall down on the parked cars, fall down on the houses. So they look beautiful for a week a year, but we're going to plant new trees throughout the entire right-of-way, far more trees than we had, that will be much more appropriate for the area. I've been sort of touching on all of these things as we go because, I just think this is the perfect time for this project, that we're really excited to have it finally taken place because there's been a lot, as you've seen, there's been a lot of private investment in the roadway. There's a lot more coming. We're trying to coordinate with the owners on that as well, just so you know. And it's really changing the character. Well, I don't want to say it's changing the character of the road, but it's changing the tone down there to show that it's a vibrant place. It's getting better. It's becoming a destination with all the art going on at the Millery building, all the new apartments. Hopefully there'll be some additional restaurants down there. There's already a number of great places to go. We love to see some of the small businesses that have been taking foothold in the city, get down onto Rantoul Street too. I think it's the perfect time for it. So this job should make it a place that everyone wants to come. There's no question it's going to be a lot safer when we're done too. A lot of times an intersection, before it's done, is a lot more fun to drive for the aggressive driver, but it's not at all safe. These intersections will all be greatly enhanced in terms of their safety. Some of the close-ups, you can get a little bit of the scale of what the lighting looks like. This is some photos from, I'm not sure what town that's in, but it's a similar light. The light's going to look not quite exactly like that, but it'll be very close to that. All the lights are going to be LED lights, and one of the things that, one of my personal goals of the lights is to make it so you see the light but not the light source, because as an engineer, I hate driving down the road being blinded by street lights. I like to have the surface illuminated but not see where it's coming from, which also helps with another thing that's very close to our hearts, is to the dark sky initiatives, which is trying to keep the night sky as dark as possible. So all of our lights will be full cutoff lights, which will mean less light pollution for your homes and businesses shining in your windows at night, and trying to put the light on the roadway where it should be. And we even get down to the little nitty-gritty. I'm pretty sure that's Kevin right there. But we get down to the smallest detail. There's a little access panel in the bottom of the lights. We have a little city seal on it. It says City of Beverly around the base of the lights, right on the bottom. So it really personalizes the roadway. Some of the other things, there will be a few places where there's going to be lighted bollards. There's actually a light inside there. Try to coordinate everything so it looks, so it's all a common pattern. You can see again, there's that same thing. The bollard will end up looking like those street lights. Here's some of the sidewalk details. This is a picture from another project, just giving you an idea of, you've all walked down concrete sidewalks, you know, boring, but that's the same material, just finished a slightly different way, and it totally changes the character of what that sidewalk looks like. So this is a section here at Federal and Rantoul showing how that pattern will work, where the traditional sidewalk pattern, you know, where 5-foot joints will go up the side street, but then on Rantoul it's going to have its own unique pattern. Showing, you know, this is another project showing early on in the life of what the trees look like when they're young and as they tend to mature. This is a rendering, a computer-generated image of the post office square and what it's going to look like upon completion. So it's significantly different. You can tell that feels like a wide open area right now. It just feels like you're taking your life in your hands getting across there. Whereas this, you feel like you get half a chance, maybe half. But you can see it's very clear where everybody's supposed to be. It's very clearly delineated where the pedestrians are. There's lights on all 4 corners. It's very well lit at night. It's much more inviting. There's another view. These are just computer-generated images, trying to get you a feel for along. This is the Balch Playground on the right there, the backstop. We're adding some grass strip on that whole side there. That road at that section on Cabot Street is very, very wide, and we're actually going to be narrowing it a few feet on each side to try to bring the scale down, try to actually make it more of a uniform cross section throughout the whole roadway. Is it my turn to turn it over to you guys now, or? All right, we're going to turn it over to Kirk Elwell from Mass DOT. Kirk is the resident engineer on the job. Like I said, we designed it with our consultants. We handed the project over to Mass DOT. They bid it. Now they're building it, and Kirk has the great responsibility of really his full-time job is making sure that this gets built right, making sure that if you guys have problems or questions, you can see Kirk. You know, memorize that face. You say that guy. He has their ear, and he can make things happen for you. So if you see something you don't like, see something that is being a problem for you and with your business or your residents, you know, reach out to us. Reach out to Kirk. But Kirk's there on an everyday basis. We're there every day too. But Kirk is his only job is building this roadway. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirk and give you a little bit of feel for how the next roughly 2 years will go.
All right, thank you, Mike. Good evening, folks. Wow. Maybe that down a little lower. That really loud. My name is Kirk Elwell, and I'm with Mass DOT, resident engineer. And my background, I've been with the state for 8 years, but I've been in private construction for a long time. So this is my 45th year in the business. So I grew up in public works right in Essex, where I lived for many years. So. And with Middlesex, Middlesex is our general contractor. I represent the Commonwealth, but I represent the city of Beverly as the construction manager, overseer for the project. And all this wonderful federal money that you had thrown at you, basically. Sitting right in front of me is Jose Nieto. He's the project manager with Middlesex Corp., who we're in adjacent offices, and we spend a lot of time together as a group. And next to him is Bob Aponis. Bob is the project superintendent, and he's the guy that makes everything happen out in the field. And you're in good hands, I'm going to tell you right now. So Bobby's very good at what he does, and the other guy you should thank is this gentleman right over here that just spoke, because we are redesigning this as we go underground. It's a daunting task going into old towns and cities and putting a bucket in the ground, and you know, you don't see what's going on below. You see equipment and noise and tearing and ripping, but you know, once you get down there, everything isn't, you know, this pretty picture that, you know, I got handed on a set of drawings So we have a lot of collaboration going on right now between Mike and Bobby and myself and a lot of other people, so, to keep us rolling. But like Mike had on the slides earlier, we are going to be basically taking out a swath 2 miles long by anywhere up to 66 feet wide. The Rantoul portion, is it all a Rantoul, basically up to the end? We're going to be doing what we call full-depth excavation. So what you see going on right now is all the subsurface stuff is going on. We do all our utilities first. We try to get those ahead of us. And then next spring, when it's, in this winter, we may start early, who knows, but normally when we know we have no danger of frost, we're going to go in and we are going to dig down 18 to 20 inches from the back of the sidewalk to the back of the other sidewalk. The intention right now, and we're going to divide this up into sections. I think this spring the first section is going to be Cabot Street from the Memorial Building heading south to Balch. That's section 1 is basically Cabot to down the lower 3 panel lines there. So Cabot Street down to Balch Street. The Cabot Street end up there, we're going to do what's called reclamation. We're going to actually reuse the road base that's there. We're not going to basically dig down the 20 inches, haul it all away. We're going to reclaim the asphalt, and there's a lot of drainage changes in this road that also incorporate what's called roadway profile. That's the dips and the doodles and all that, not just catch basins and stuff. So there's going to be some enhancements to bring these up to standard so water has some place to go. You know, there's some flat areas that need a little rise in them and cross slope too. So that'll be going on all at the same time. So the first section, what do you think, April, Bob? So April we'll start at the north end and we'll head south, full width basically, redoing all the way down to a little bit south of Balch. This winter at Balch, just between Balch and Herrick, there's a culvert, fairly large culvert, which we have to replace. We're going to do that work starting, a few weeks? Yeah, January, which is a few weeks coming up. We have a fairly big excavation there to get that culvert done this year, so that in the spring when we're ready to start running road base down, we're going to come right down through there. And so what happens is we reclaim, we grade it, then we're going to apply asphalt, and then we start developing sidewalks, curbs, all that comes afterwards. Generally the road, once the road's developed with asphalt, we have an idea where our grade lines are going. So then we know where the curbs are going to be set to, and your sidewalks and your stoops to your house and all that, front yards and whatnot. So the second section, are we going to do another Cabot section? Is that the current plan? So what we're going to do is we're going to go Cabot, and we're going to go another interval on Cabot to Swan Street. I'm not even sure what Swan Street is. I haven't memorized them all yet. So, at the same time, are you going to be doing Pardon? Got it. And that again, like Mike said, that's there's some changes in that area. It's going to kind of squeeze in a little bit. And there's some profile changes in that area also. But the same streetscape you saw there will be the end result. The next interval is the upper one. And this is where, I don't want to soft pedal it, but this is where the real kind of fun begins is Rantoul Street is full depth construction. Full depth here is about 20 inches from where you see it right now, roughly. There is also going to be some profile changes to enhance the roadway drainage. Not major ones, because the buildings are kind of guide where you're going to go. And that's Cabot, from the intersection of Cabot on the Salem end to Pleasant Street, which is about 1,500 feet maybe, yeah. Currently, the plan is really to take out the whole width, correct? Or we're not going to split it. We're working this as we go because we all arrived here last summer, so there's going to be a lot of give and take with these as we go too, because we have to make it work for everybody, for detours and for the businesses and people, and we got to keep access for sidewalks. So there's a lot going here at one time. I'm really simplifying this, but what you got to understand on the Rantoul end is there's going to be a lot of dirt removed. So in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of excavation and trucks pulling stuff out to bring, and then we bring the new back in. And the new road is a level of gravel and then asphalt and then curbs, sidewalks. Once it's all done, the last thing we do on this project will be the finish paving. We always do the finish paving basically last, and then so that will be repeated from Pleasant to Home Street, and then you think Home Street will be it for this coming season, Bob?
I'd like to think Roundy Street.
All right, Roundy Street, yeah, so. Yeah, so that would be basically this coming year's task. Do you think you're gonna make it any further from Swan to Colon this next year?
I think on the north end, we will finish at
Gloucester Crossing.
south end,
All right, that's fine. Now, Gloucester Crossing is Mike's basically related to you, is a tough egg, so to speak. There's a lot going on there if you drive through there, which I do on a lot of occasions now. Not just people, but cars and those things on the rails that go really fast. And so what we're going to do is we do a full replacement at that crossing, and it's going to be quite different. As you saw the pictures on the roadway alignment, it's going to be quite different. All new signals, not just railroad signals, but all new traffic signals. The whole works. There's a lot to it. So, and we're in basically starting the review process with the MBTA's new operator, Keolis, which is always a fun task. And Middlesex is hired as a contractor on board. They are already starting the development process for the signals, including the traffic signals too, right? Pine Ridge, yeah. So that will be ongoing. I think originally we had slated in our schedule to do it in the fall of 16. Based on the meeting I went to the other day with Keolis, I don't think we're going to make that happen. But there's a good side to this, because I think we're going to go in the spring of 17. The spring of 17, the bridge, the Beverly-Salem Bridge is going down. They're going to drop the rail down for repairs. So if we did it the fall of this year coming, we would have had a busing sequence in our contract. So we would have had to bus the Gloucester group around us, and it was one weekend, right? 2 weekends. Is it 2 weekends? Yeah. 2 weekends, yeah. That we would go in on 2 separate weekends and try to replace this whole thing. Now, when we say replace whole thing, you have to have all the rail back. You know, there's a giant drain line that goes through there. There's a gas line sleeve that goes through there. You got signals that have to be kind of active before you can run traffic again. There's a lot to this. There's a huge amount to it. And, you know, it's kind of like working at the bottom of the funnel, you know. The top side's easy, but everybody's at the bottom there. Everybody comes to that point, so there's going to be it's a tough traffic management issue, too. But we'll be developing that, you know, in the next few months, months, to figure out how we're going to do it. So, like I said, we just walked into all this, so. So yeah, the spring of 17, the grades at the track don't change, so we can come up to near the track if we have to, and the grades will be basically the same. Once we do the new track and the signals, the grades will match the existing grades, plus and minus. I mean, we have to make this work. So, and then the year basically right through 17, we're going to do say if we make it to Roundy Street, we're looking at Rantoul to Lenox Street. And then down to Gloucester Crossing. We also do basically 1,000 feet of Endicott Street. Elliott. Endicott's in Danvers, isn't it? We'll do it over here in Beverly, though. Yeah, Elliott Street. And I got too many jobs in my head. So that's a big chunk too. 1,000 feet of road's a lot, you know. But the bottom line is, right now what you see is kind of the tip of the iceberg. We're just digging individual trenches like you saw Boston Ingrid, Boston Gas. They used to be Boston Gas. You know, all that little work with trenches this wide. Well, I can't reach the size of the trench we're going to make. It's pretty wide, so it's as wide as the auditorium here in the front. So it's a little different, and I don't want you to be afraid. But you know, we've done this before. This is no news to anybody. This has been done many times, and we make it work. You know. So far, we've had a lot of good work, results with the little detours we put in, the one-ways, with a, you know, one lane running, one around. Well, it's going to have to be a little different when we do the full depth. We'll have to have a full detour in for the 1,500 feet, so. And that is being developed. So the year 2017 is basically everything that we didn't get in 16. Because this is a 2-year contract. This is a very, very aggressive, probably the most aggressive one I've had in many years. Normally, this would be probably a 3-year job, but we're in a 2-year slot. So by October of 2017, they have to be done, or they start paying back a few bucks a day, right? It's a lot. So basically, it gets very repetitive. Take out 1,500 feet, gravel, paving, curbs, sidewalks. Same time, all those beautiful light poles you're going to see, we got to put light pole bases in. You might have saw a guy named P.V. Barone down the south end of the site. He's putting a Comcast, whole new Comcast main line in, which will actually feed, Comcast comes down there, but then it feeds up your side, well, actually it feeds down your side streets to that, so. And that'll go in spurts. There's not full Comcast, but there's a lot of new Comcast. As Mike said, there's new fire alarm pull boxes, which they're taking care of under a force account to the Commonwealth, which I pay for, and, oh Lord, we got a lot of stuff. New traffic signals at 7 locations, correct? 5 existing and 2 new, like Mike said. So you have a new one at Railroad, and what's the one right up from Colin? Beckford. Those will be basically developed as we get to those areas. And the contractor, as we said, that's in charge of that is already working on the designs for those and what we call the shop drawings for the individual products for review. So. Did you have the numbers on the trees and stuff? Are you going to go through that? I know everybody got upset about the tree removal. Well, I don't know if everybody got upset. I know a lot of people got upset, but just as a not a mitigation. This is what we're going to do. We removed 126 trees, big, small, medium, dead, live, whatever they were. We're going to plant 254 new trees. These are 2 to 3 inch caliper, which is about that big a tree, of various species. We are also going to plant 251 about 18 inch to 36 inch diameter shrubs. We're going to plant 2,632 vine plants. And then about 915 new grasses and perennials and whatnot, in various areas, like you saw some at Gloucester Crossing in that area, and then down where the new culvert is, there's some area there, and so So once it's all done, I think the hurt that was done with the original trees coming out will die away. So, other than that, I think that's about it, folks. For us, at least. Thank you. Oh, your phone's down. Thanks.
Hi, folks. Kevin Artunian, Chief of Staff. Thanks to Middlesex and Kirk and Mike for being here and walking us through a lot of the project. As Kirk mentioned, there's going to be some serious work coming, and there's obviously going to be some disruption for people. New traffic patterns. There'll be times when we could do two ways that you see today. There'll be times it's down to single lane traffic. There's times we'll be detouring the entire road. Parking. There's going to be some no parking at times. Obviously, that affects people, both businesses and residents, but it's necessary evil, obviously, in order to operate and do the work. Sidewalk closures. There's going to be times when the sidewalks are closed as well, and we're going to work tirelessly to try to allow access when possible. We've already talked about what we could possibly do when we're laying out that sidewalk, but there'll be some periods of downtime. And there's staging locations throughout the project. You might have noticed it over at the Burger King. There was a taking that we have, and we've laid some material there. Bulge Playground, outside of Thomas Ford, by Odell Park. All those locations were chosen based on need for the project as well as minimum use of those areas. And so the whole purpose of this is to try to give people information. When a project like this is happening, we want to make sure you folks have as much information as possible so you can prepare for the project. And so up here behind me is obviously a list of some ways you can get information on the project. About a year ago, we created a website, project-dedicated website, to provide information about mostly of a lot of what you've already seen tonight, but also periodical updates on what's happening, so that people who go to the website with a question, hopefully they can have that question answered. So if, for instance, trees being removed, if you see that happening outside your front door, hopefully you go to the website, you'll see that that's a planned part of that project. There's also a contact us button on that, where you can submit an inquiry to us, and that goes to Mike, myself, and our IT director, and we're going to respond to that as quickly as possible. It might take us reaching out to these guys first to get an answer, but we'll respond to you if you reach out. Twitter, we created a Twitter account. It's sort of a pager type situation where we will, as soon as we post something on the website, if you follow us on Twitter, you'll have a notification to check the website for an update. So if you're interested and you follow Twitter, it's another option for people. We've also recently created a button on the website to sign up for email notifications. So going forward, if you sign up, we'll have your email in a location where once we update the website, we'll also be sending an email out to people who choose to follow us through the website as well. Just again, give more information to people on what's happening. We also have the capabilities of the reverse 911 system. You folks are probably familiar with that, hearing Mike's voice when there's no parking for snow parking bans and such. But we'll try, we can have the ability to concentrate those calls to different neighborhoods. So if there's something coming that is very impactful, we'll look to that as another resource to notify people. And then obviously the day-to-day outreach on the ground. These guys, from what I can tell, have done a great job communicating with the different businesses and the residents who have had questions about what's happening. There's been a lot of drainage work, as they've talked about, with lots of excavating. But I know, speaking with a lot of the business owners, they've been communicated with, and although not ideal, they are able to work with the guys on the ground to try to make it as accommodating as possible. And the 1A committee, about a year ago, we created a committee with elected officials, city representatives, business community representatives, resident representatives, and most recently our team here in front of us, to discuss what's going on with the project, to get updates on it, and then that way those leaders in the community can give consistent and accurate information back to their constituents, so that if you have a question or you run into Councilor Rand or any of the councilors for that matter, you can, it's Councilor Latter, sorry, you can have, they'll be able to give you the same information we would give you if you happen to contact us as well. And then lastly, I'm throwing it up there. That's my contact information. If you are in a jam, call, email, come to City Hall, stop by the mayor's office, ask for Kevin. We want to help you. That's the goal. That's what we're here for. Like I said at the beginning, there's going to be disruption. But if there's a way we can help you, we're going to do it. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, to me, throughout the project. And then I also want to mention the Open for Business campaign. Jen Wallace from Beverly Main Street has been a great partner on this from day one, looking out for the business's best interests. Last year we did a couple of business forums, just giving them a quick update on what's happening. And this coming winter we're looking to do that again now that we have a contractor on board and a little bit more information. The goal of that is to communicate, talk to each other. What are you doing? How are you improving your business? What are you doing to be creative and unique, and sharing those ideas in a place where people can together find benefit. And also, we're hopeful that we'll be planning some events down on Rantoul Street, not in the middle of the work, but in other locations that make sense. So I thank you all for coming tonight, and now the questions, Mayor Cahill will lead us in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. So these gentlemen have given you some great information. Let's get to your questions. We've got just about 30 minutes, and whatever questions you want to have answered, they will be quite succinct and concise in their responses, so we can focus on getting as many questions out as possible. Yes, ma'am. Sure, thank you. So the gist of the question is, how can we get the most specific, most timely information we need to be able to know when we're going to have trouble parking in front of our place or moving in and out of our neighborhood on a regular basis? Absolutely. Right. So I think some of the things that Kevin walked through, do you want to put that slide back up? And so getting your email address first, and then the work of the 1A committee is meant to be focused on that, trying to get us, as you heard Kirk say, they're working the schedule, and so trying to make sure that we get as detailed and as day by day, week by week information as we can. Anybody want to speak to that? Kevin, by the way, you know, it's been just about a year and a half ago that I asked Kevin to be the point person on everything Route 1A. So he truly is your first stop on all of this, and he's happy to be that. So anytime you want to reach directly out to Kevin, please do.
Thank you. So we like I said, we have regular construction meetings, Middlesex, Mass DOT, Mike's team, myself. We sit in the room and we discuss what's happening, what's going on. And from the very beginning, we asked for updates to come from these guys as detailed as possible, as regular as possible, so that we can get that posted up on the website. So I would say continue to go to the website. We're going to continue to get as much information as we know it to put it up there. And if you have a specific question, if you have a showing on a certain day, like I said before, you're welcome to call me directly, and I'll find that answer out for you. That's what we'll do.
Please. You know, you use that for the TV too.
Oh, okay. My guys, my foremen out in the job have been directed to talk to you guys if you come out and try to coordinate your access in and out of your driveways. We have means to get you out of your driveway. If there's a trench across your driveway, we have big steel road plates that we can put across the trench so you can get out. So we're trying to come to you as much as we can, but if there's something that you question, please just come out and talk to the crew and we'll be more than happy to help you. But we do have means. You should not be locked inside your house for the day. That's unnecessary. We have means to. Okay, I thought you said you couldn't get out until 3 o'clock, but. Okay.
But it was okay for me, I just arranged my schedule.
Yeah, but.
I wasn't going to ask the general public to try and access my property during this period of
Okay,
time.
okay,
And I would have planned it differently had I known they were going to be in front of the property.
yeah,
That's all.
okay. All right, and we do supply a schedule weekly to the town. There are a lot of unforeseen things we can't see under the ground, so we come across a lot of things we don't expect, so that schedule is more or less a guide. It's not something you can follow to a T, but again, when we're in your neighborhood and you have any questions, please go out and talk to the crew. But please be careful, because it is a dangerous operation that is going on. Make sure you grab their attention so they come to you and you don't come to where the work's actually being taken place.
Yes.
Part of this construction plan, as far as notifying residents or kind of schedule out there involve like notes or signage posted on like by people's houses or leaflets or pamphlets or anything like that, because I lived in Ryleside and they did big construction on Livingstone Ave last year, and was notified a few days in advance when they were doing that work, and that was very helpful. I wasn't notified when they were cutting down the trees. That just kind of happened. And really I didn't know about this meeting until there was a paper left in my mailbox, which was very helpful. So I think the website is awesome, and now I know to check it out, but I think the immediacy of just paper notifications is really helpful, and I was just wondering if that's part of what, just if that's involved in letting residents know about construction.
Mike? I mean, for our jobs, it's typical, yes?
This job is, we've leafleted this job several times throughout the history of it. And, you know, Kevin is doing a lot of the yeoman's work on that. And, you know, even after this last round of it and, you know, pressing the flesh on each business, is still amazed that there's a lot of people that, like, what road job? If you go in any of the businesses, we actually put up color graphics of the job. We had little pull tabs for the Beverly 1A website. We've done a lot of promotion of the different resources, trying to make sure that everyone's engaged. But it's a lot of the right-of-way has renters in it, so the population changes. So somebody may have moved in the last 6 to 12 months and not had the benefit of a lot of the outreach that we have done, because there's been a huge amount of outreach. But you know, leafleting is not our primary means of communication, but it is. It'll. You know, we did it for this meeting. Kevin takes most of the credit there. He did it for this meeting to make sure that people have the opportunity to come and hear us speak and you know, spend the night with us, which is, I know, what everyone wants to do. You know, we try to leverage the electronic communication as best as we can, because that, you know, we hope can reach a broader audience. And the problem is we leave a note on a door, and there might be a 5-unit apartment, and the first person in gets the note. and then nobody else gets it. So there's no perfect way to do it, so we are trying to hit as many approaches as we can. And I think that, Bob from Middlesex was on the right track when he's saying, they communicate with us with a general schedule. We put that online, we try to convey that to you. But really, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of how does it affect me on the street, the best way to find that out is walk outside and talk to the crew. They're good guys. It's very friendly. Everyone will stop and engage with you and try to give you as much information as you can, because as Bob said, as soon as you open up the street, you're like, oof, didn't know that was there. And the plan changes. So the schedule that they gave us last week means nothing now, because now we have to redesign it in the field. And that's every single day. Something changes. So it can only be a general guide as to what we're doing. But the really day-to-day, in terms of what are we doing in front of your house, when we get to your section of the road, the best thing to do is just come out and talk to us. Or call us or whatever, and we can do it on your behalf. You don't have to go out and talk to the guys. If you don't want to go out in the cold weather, we'll go out. And, we're out there every day anyway, so feel free to call, and we can ask on your behalf when it gets to right in front of you. That might end up being the most practical way.
Yes. Right. So, right. So the question, if I can kind of rephrase it, you've got your barber shop in that building. I know the building. You're on Rantoul. Of course you're on Rantoul. You're across from the Pickled Onion. I know where you are. Question is, when you do the total 18 to 20 inches out, building to building, you're doing it all at once, the whole width, correct? No. Okay. So his questions are about how it's going to be done, how long he might have trouble getting access into and out of the business, if he'll have to be closed at all.
We would like to see, we would make sure that you don't have to close. If you want to close, you want to take a vacation while we're right in front of your building, we can coordinate that, but it's true. Hair never stops growing, does it? So we make sure that everyone can get in. You might have a minutes-long window when we're doing something critical right in front of your door that we might say, look, wait, just give us a minute. But other than that, we can always get customers in and out of your business. Even when we have ways of getting them in there, even when we pour concrete. We put boards over the wet concrete to get people in and out of the business. So it's our goal. As Bob said, this isn't new to us. We've done this on many streets, in many, all of us respectively, in many cities, in many projects. So we've come up with ways of keeping customers and homeowners getting in and out of their property throughout the whole project. And at different times, when the excavator is right in front of your business, yeah, there won't be any parking there, but you can park on the side streets. You park above and beyond that active work zone. The reason it's an 18 to 20 inch depth up to about Chestnut Street is because the road was originally built with cobblestones on top of concrete, and we have to get all of that out, and that ends up being about 18 to 20 inches. After you go by Chestnut Street, the road is just conventional road, and as Kirk alluded to, we're just going to grind it up and use that material in place. So it's a little less invasive. But even when that 18 to 20 inches goes away, the road's, at the end of the day, the road is drivable. You can park a car in front of the business unless there's barrels or some other reason not to. But overnight, you'll be able to use the road, the sidewalks, at the end of the work shift. Everything kind of goes back to a usable state, albeit completely different than it was the day before. And they'll move through a certain section, and as soon as they get enough work done, there'll be another part of the crew that'll be bringing in new gravel and spreading it right away. So you'll get a much better sense for it. You'll see it coming down the road like a tide, where one crew is going to be ripping stuff out, another crew will be bringing new material in and regrading that. So the most extreme and most interesting part of it will be when the old cobblestone road comes out. That's the most different the job will look. But as soon as they start bringing gravel back in, the grade comes back to normal, and hopefully shortly thereafter, within weeks, you get that first 2 layers of pavement down, and right away, that's going to be better than any road we've lived with for the last 25, 30 years. So it'll be a big improvement right then.
Okay. Yes, Jean, and then you.
So I may have misunderstood Kurt, but you said that they were taking the street from side to side. You know, across the street they were going to take out the dirt, the road, and they're doing it in sections. And I think maybe this is what you might have been talking about as well. We need to know as business owners, how long is that process in one particular area going to take? Because I've heard many times, oh, you might want to take your vacation. You can't take a vacation. And especially where it's kind of moving, you don't know what you're hitting, you go under. You say next week we're going to be here and you're not going to be there because something's changed. I need to know, I'm anxious about that. I need to know how long is that section going to take? Is it from, Street Edwards to Fayette? Is it going to take 2 weeks or 1 week? You know what I mean? Those are the things I need to know in advance so I can plan a business strategy.
So question one, side to side. As you move up the street, are you going side to side completely as you go, or this side of the street for a bit and then this side of the street for a bit as you go? Completely side to side as you go. And I'm going to try to answer this and then turn it over. The question really is, can you tell us when you'll be in front of our business, and can you tell us how long once you get there? And I think the first part, when will we be in front of your business, you lay out a schedule, and then as the schedule, as things unfold, it probably needs to be adjusted, yes? And so there's a best case scenario, we'll be in front of your business on around about this week or these couple of weeks. And so that's a movable target, right? And then and so you keep track of that, and we'll all do the best we can to keep that information flowing. And then once they get to your business, again, it's best case when they open the street, if there are no problems, it'll take about this much time. If they hit a problem, if they recognize a problem, that's a part of the communication. We will be keeping you informed as we go. Does that sound right? Is that how it works? Anybody want the microphone here? Please.
Well, the road part is a little more fluid than the utility part. When we're trying to put the utilities in, that's when we run into all the unexpected stuff. Once they start doing the box work and going down from building to building on both sides of the road, that ends up moving a lot more fluid, because we know what's in the top 2 feet of the road, essentially nothing. So that ends up being a lot more fluid. And so you're going to go from what you have today, when they first get in front of your business, they'll just rip everything out, but they'll leave it graded so that, everything's usable. You can still park, you can still walk on the sidewalk, still get into the building. It's just going to be dirt. Then there'll be gravel, and then there'll be pavement. Then there'll be sidewalks. So each day it's going to look a little different, but it'll be usable. The business will still be open. You'll still be able to get customers in and out. You'll still be able to get to your home, still be able to get to your driveways. If you have parking lots, still be able to have access to them throughout. But each day it's going to be in a little bit different state. And I'll take a step way back and say that so much of the planning that we did in terms of designing the job is done with a tremendous amount of anxiety as to how it's all going to go. Because we try to design the jobs for the worst case scenario, for the worst contractor in the world. And quite frankly, when the state opened the bids and we ended up with Middlesex, right away I've worked with Middlesex a number of times over the past 20 years. I was very happy to see them as a contractor. And then when I called their operations director and found out who the crew was, these guys, I was even more excited because I knew that we got one of the best crews in the Middlesex Corporation. So we have a very good contractor. Already in the last 6 months, we know that we've got a great relationship with them, and they're very accommodating. And so we have every reason to believe that as difficult as the construction is going to be, we've got exactly the right team to pull it off. So we're pretty excited about it.
Gene, any follow-up? So help me out. My understanding was what we've seen this fall is the underground drainage work, some utility work. That's what you've dealt with, and it's gone by. That has reached a certain point coming from the lower end of Rantoul and Cabot, up Rantoul. Some of that work has also started coming from the other end of the job, up at Dairy Queen, moving that way. The expectation for going into the ground and doing that, what do you call it again? Yeah, the roadblocks work will start from Gene's end, for Gene's purposes, at the corner of, Fayette? Fayette and Rantoul. That's going to start at the bottom end of Rantoul in the spring. So you'll be seeing that work at, before we get too far into the year. Later than spring. Late spring, early summer, you'll be going in with the box work. The remainder of the drainage work, utility work, that's moving up Rantoul and moving down Cabot. We reach a certain point. Whenever we have to stop for winter, we pick back up in spring. We haven't stopped yet.
No.
Okay.
Winter was canceled.
Okay. Yes.
Question, you guys were mentioning that there is going to be culvert work in January, just around the corner here. Is that going to block the road entirely? And is there going to be work?
No, fortunately, it's actually almost completely. Fortunately, it's almost completely off the road. It's really, we're just doing the head wall. There's an existing 66-inch culvert that we're not really going to touch, and there's an existing 42-inch culvert that we're just going to replace about 14 or 15 feet of. So the road will stay open completely, but the whole head wall, looking at the high school property, is going to be replaced with a cast-in-place head wall. So it's going to be dramatic because it's going to be a lot of big work. We are going to push the traffic over towards Balch Playground, but the road will stay open throughout two-way.
And the second question is, if you don't have a home phone, is there a way to deliver 911?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you go on the city's website, our vendor is Swift Reach. And so if you look on the city's website, there's a button for the Swift 911 system. And that's on the city's city website homepage. On the resident homepage, there's a button. And yeah, absolutely, a lot of people have their cell phone or whatever phone you want to put on there. And because a vast majority of people have only a cell phone nowadays.
So Kevin, on the website homepage, there's a big button for resident. You click on the resident button, goes to the resident page, and there you'll see a click for the Swift 911, so you can sign up. So the next three questions are Rick, and then this gentleman, and this gentleman. Rick?
Reference to delivery trucks. Is there an ordinance presently in place that says that they cannot be in residential areas to deliver their products in the city?
We'll get back to you on that, Rick. Thanks.
What I'm looking at is delivery trucks have to deliver their goods. So the business owners are going to need to know as soon as possible when it's going to be blocked off so they can make them aware of what they can do. So maybe you can specifically send up an area for those vehicles, and it'll be ready for them to park right away and get their goods right to them right away.
You mean section by section as the job goes?
Okay. And what's the ordinance that those commercial trucks cannot be like operating, like sitting in a, we'll say, you're gonna use a residential neighborhood, they can't be there before 7 o'clock in the morning when the register's running or anything like that? Like the trash trucks cannot deliver before 7 o'clock in the morning. So a commercial vehicle, big vehicle parked in the middle of the neighborhood, waiting to come down one of those areas, you say they can't be there till 7 o'clock?
We'll take a look and see whether that's going to be problematic at any point during the job. Okay. Sir? Yep, right here.
Couple questions. One, when you're replacing the water lines, things that have been there from 1890 or whatever, are you replacing the Salem line and the Beverly water line?
Salem rehabilitated their line a year and a half ago or so. And our water main is not quite as old as that. It's much younger in our world. For me, there's a sweet spot when things were built. Even if it's old, in the early 1900s, the stuff is very robust, and I like that stuff much better than the stuff was built 30, 40 years later, because it wasn't nearly as thick. Our water main, the key element to there is our water main was cement lined actually back in the 60s. So that puts a cement coating on the inside, which all new pipe is provided with cement coating. That protects the inside of it. And over the last 2 years, we've been replacing the water services from that main to make sure that there's no old iron services in the right-of-way. So we're making sure that all the house services are in good shape. We also cleaned and TV'd the sewer line throughout the right-of-way. And if you go down Beckford Street tonight, you'll notice the guys out there putting a liner, a fiberglass liner. Well, it's not really fiberglass, but we'll call it a fiberglass liner, in the sewer pipe right now as we speak to make sure it's not, we're trying to prevent a future collapse. So trying to protect those utilities.
Thank you. On the Elliott part of the work that's being done at the intersection of Cabot and Elliott Street, is anything being done to improve the traffic flow there, which any of us have driven through there, we know what it's like?
We're not specifically doing the intersection itself. This job stops short of that. We are totally unrelated to this. We will pick up, and we are looking for funding sources to rebuild the rest of Cabot Street as well, which would include that intersection and the entirety of Cabot Street with new streetscape and all that. But this job, in this particular job, it does not include the intersection. It goes right up to the intersection.
So at this point, nothing's being addressed in that intersection, but something may be addressed about it in the future.
It'll definitely be addressed in the future.
Then my third question is about the intersection of Colin and Sawyer. Again, anybody that's driven through this, especially if you're coming up Sawyer, you're trying to get down there, the people coming down Colin Street, you're driving 1A by 128, people coming off of 128, people let one car go, one car go, one car go. You come down Sawyer, those people on Colin Street, they're flying. They couldn't care less if you've been sitting there for 20 minutes or half an hour.
Yeah, that is an odd, it is outside this scope. It is an odd intersection. If you notice, when we did some paving work down there, we tried to restripe the end of Sawyer to try to make it a little bit better, trying to make it make a little more sense, because it's too wide open, quite frankly. So this will take us right to that, and it'll define what we can do to improve that intersection.
My last question is pedestrian crossing in the Gloucester crossing area, specifically where it relates to the kids coming out of the middle school. What they do is they cross over to the railroad tracks, they come up to the florist shop, and they just go straight across the intersection to the Birmingham. Is there going to be anything to address that intersection as far as pedestrian?
It's totally, I don't know if I mean, if you look at the slide, it's completely different. And it's much, there are places, one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to put a crosswalk just to put a crosswalk. If it's not safe to cross, there's really nothing you can do to make it safe. So don't put a crosswalk and close your eyes and pretend that it's going to be safe just because I put a crosswalk there. So we've tried to choose locations and routes throughout the intersection that are actually safe to cross at. So, you know, while I don't know how to speak for the invincible teenagers of the world and get them to not cross at the railroad tracks across 4 lanes of traffic. I'm not sure we can ever prevent that.
So Mike, where they would be directed to cross would be up at Beckford,
They'll be up at Beckford, or they go right down by Burger King.
depending on where they're headed.
Yeah.
This gentleman, and then, yeah.
A quick question is, winter's coming, and how long are the barrels going to be on the stumps, because they're going to be all over the place when the plows come? Hundreds of barrels where all the trees were,
Yeah.
right? And if you spray the tank, you put barrels, some people aren't parking from their office.
You gonna what?
They can put their parking.
Okay.
And those are going to be all over the place when the plows.
There's a long story as to why the barrels are there. Even though they're spray painted, the stumps are spray painted fluorescent pink, somebody still managed to trip on one and sued. So hence the barrels. So they're going to put a different type of delineator on each stump that can survive the snow from the snow plow. So
Driven in there with a tag on it, it worked really well, and
something along those lines. So yeah, the barrels in the next few weeks will go away, and something that can survive snow plows will be there.
Yes.
Considered doing any evening work next time you bring through 5, 6 in the morning, specific areas like lots of
The only time that you'll see any nighttime work, we generally don't like to do nighttime work because most people hate when we do nighttime work. It's very disruptive to all the residences. Yeah, Gloucester Crossing, the railroad work will essentially be the way we typically do railroad work is 24 hours a day. We start after the last train on Friday, and then they actually, you wouldn't know this because it all looks like the same crew, but they kick us off Sunday morning. So whatever we do, we have to be gone Sunday morning. And then the railroad comes in, puts the track bed back down, puts the track back in service, which they have to have it back in service by the first train Monday morning. So somebody is working from 9 o'clock Friday, right through to Monday morning, putting pavement down. That work will be 24 hours a day throughout. And that's been done before. It was 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, that the last time Gloucester Crossing was done. But the whole track bed was replaced then. And that's the only time nighttime or 24-hour work takes place.
Yes, up there. Yep.
Hi, Jackie Steve, nice to see you again. Well, thanks for being here. I love the fact that the complete streets design is that still no meters though. It's nice to not have meters. Oh, we're gonna still not have meters for the complete street design? Is there gonna be resident parking, customer parking? How will those parking look?
That's a whole set of different conversations. Okay.
No meters though, or do you know yet? You're gonna have meters?
The road is designed to have meters.
Okay, I think we've got a lot of questions to answer around parking around the depot and the fact that we now have a parking garage and residential neighborhoods and people parking there to go to work. And so there's a lot that's wrapped up in that we'll be looking into that's separate from the project, but it's got to happen. So we can talk. You can be part of that conversation for sure. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Very much our preference to not have meters anywhere and to move on to different technology. We can still have some sort of metered parking, but not with mechanical devices. The problem is going to be getting technology to catch up, getting the world to catch up with what's available. So we're looking into it.
So I had promised 8 o'clock. We'll go a few minutes over because I know there's several other hands up, but try not to go more than that. Yes, sir. Did you still have a question? You had your hand up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Who else had a question? Yes.
Actually, there's one of the things we've sent out letters to all the homeowners to make sure that they're aware. If you're going to convert to gas, maybe you don't have gas, do that now. Contact National Grid, get on the list. They won't do it before winter, but they'll do it next season. National Grid has replaced all of the gas throughout the entire right-of-way, including the services. So National Grid, in theory, should have no work left to do out there except for new customers. And we've worked on almost all the water lines that we think we need to. If you have a specific problem, if your house fronts on Rantoul Street or Cabot Street in the right-of-way, and you got water problems, by all means call our office and right. If you've got good, ideally the water service, if it's copper, you shouldn't have to worry about it. If you go down in the basement and it looks like an old iron pipe, you might want to think about replacing it. We're replacing all the iron pipes from the water main to the sidewalk to make sure that we don't have to go dig up the road later on. That may leave some houses with iron from the sidewalk into the house. And that's obviously, we don't want to see that happen, but if you had to replace that later on, that's a lot less of a big deal than dig it up in the street. But now would be the time to do that. And if you have an iron service, you probably have lousy water pressure, so you probably know that already.
Yes.
So, question about the technology around the traffic control. Will these lights have the ability to go into a scheduled or passive mode at nighttime to allow traffic on the right of ways to proceed without stopping inside streets to just have a flashing red light? And I think I had asked Councilor Randall basically to combat two things. One, the sound pollution at nighttime of motorcycles and other vehicles on Rantoul Street, just cracking the throttle wide open at nighttime. And also, obviously, just doing that to save on gas.
They are advanced signals. They'll be all interconnected, like I said, each signal can communicate with the next. And exactly what the traffic, what the phasing of them is, we do have recommended phasing for optimal efficiency, and they all have detection. So basically at night, they're going to give the green to, they're going to favor the main line, and they'll only actuate the side street signals if somebody pulls up and is detected. So they generally stay in, at night when there's no traffic, they're going to stay, they're not just going to cycle back and forth. They'll stay in a state of mainline operation until the car pulls up on a side street.
And the technology that is it able to distinguish the difference between a vehicle approaching from a side street and stopping in turn right? And is it able to not signal the other lights to turn red?
If there's a right turn lane, yes, each lane is these are all going to use cameras, and the software is sophisticated enough, it can do a lot of things. And if there's a turn bay, dedicated right turn bay, it knows that that's a right turn vehicle, not a straight through vehicle, and I don't have to do anything.
I actually just want to say thank you for this project. I know it's a huge endeavor, and as people who are going to be living through it, we'll try to be patient. But my biggest thing is to say express my appreciation for the bike lanes that are being installed. I know the Beverly Bike Committee put a lot of work into it, and work with you folks. I've been following them, and that is going to be a huge improvement. So I just want to say thank you for that part of it. It's very nice. I used to ride my bike down that way all the time. It'll be a lot safer when it's not dark.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes,
I just want to take a quick comment, and it's been a concurrent theme throughout the night, but something we worked on with the committee is, the phasing has changed differently from the very beginning to now, and the sooner we can nail down the order of work of this, and even if we can't put a concrete date, say this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, and give people an idea of how long each, I understand when you're in one of those phases, it's difficult because, the situation's fluid, but in a general sense, we should know we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, then we're going to do this, and people will get an idea. Anything we can do to get information out to people so that they know how to plan accordingly, I think helps us all. That's something I know I'm going to push for.
Okay. I'm feeling all Motown because I second that emotion. So, you like that, Kirk? So no, we all want that, and so we'll continue to work towards that. If we're good, I just want to, I think, reinforce, I want to thank everybody who's presented, especially Kevin, because I want to reinforce that go to Kevin, call on Kevin, use these ways of plugging in your email address, the website, make sure that all your questions are asked. It's on us to answer them. And yes, Councilor Latta, we want to make sure that we get that order of work nailed down and that general calendar, and then that calendar is going to be adjusted as we go. And so that's where that ongoing conversation and flow of information is so important. And this is a great project. This is incredibly needed, and when it's done, we're all going to be better for it, and that this whole part of town is going to be in a much better place. So thank you for spending the time with us tonight, and have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks.